Religious prophecies about the end of the world have failed over 200 times in recorded history, yet millions still believe the next prediction. Today, we're exploring why apocalyptic thinking persists even as real environmental threats go ignored.
That's fascinating. And it really highlights this paradox we're seeing. With climate change denial and end times prophecies, doesn't it?
Well, what's really striking is how these same groups who mock climate science have been predicting the world's end repeatedly. 1988, Y2K, Harold Camping's 2011 billboards, and each time they're wrong, they just reschedule Doomsday.
It reminds me of that Parks and Recreation episode with the Doomsday cult that kept booking the park for their end-of-world ceremonies.
You know what's wild? That TV parody actually mirrors reality perfectly. Like when Trump stood at the UN declaring climate change the greatest hoax while world leaders watched in disbelief. It's that same pattern of denying observable reality.
Speaking of observable reality, can you break down some of the actual climate data they're choosing to ignore?
Well, according to NASA, the last 7 years have been the warmest on record. We're seeing unprecedented melting in Greenland, wildfires in previously untouched regions, and sea levels rising at twice the rate they were in the 20th century. Yet these same groups dismiss all this evidence while obsessing over supposed hidden prophecies in newspaper headlines.
That level of cognitive dissonance seems almost impossible to maintain. How do they manage it?
That's where this fascinating 2022 study about the anti-social religious profile comes in. Researchers identified what they call the dark triad in certain religious circles: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. These traits actually help maintain the denial.
Well, that's chilling. How do these traits manifest in practice?
So the narcissism shows up as this chosen ones mentality. They believe they're special. They'll be raptured away while everyone else faces consequences. The Machiavellianism appears in how they constantly manipulate facts and prophecies, spinning every failed prediction into a test of faith. And the psychopathy? That's the ability to look at real suffering from climate disasters and just shrug it off as God's plan.
The impact on children growing up in these environments must be devastating.
Oh, it absolutely is. Studies show kids raised in rapture culture often develop severe anxiety disorders. They report panic attacks if they can't find their parents, nightmares about being left behind, and many don't even plan for their futures because they're convinced the world will end before they grow up.
That sounds like religious trauma syndrome. I've been reading about how it affects development and decision-making well into adulthood.
Exactly right. And here's what makes it even more complex. Figures like Charlie Kirk are actively promoting these harmful ideologies while being embraced as Christian leaders. His rhetoric often contradicts basic Christian teachings about love and compassion, yet he's held up as a defender of faith.
So how are younger generations responding to all this?
That's actually where we're seeing some hope. A growing number of young evangelicals are breaking away from this pattern. They're looking at Scripture's original context about environmental stewardship and recognizing that caring for creation isn't some liberal conspiracy. It's a fundamental responsibility.
You know what's interesting about that? It suggests we might be at a tipping point in how religious communities approach environmental issues.
Well, the evidence is becoming harder to deny, especially as climate impacts hit closer to home. When your own community is affected by natural disasters, it becomes much harder to dismiss climate change as a hoax. Plus, younger believers are finding that environmental stewardship actually deepens their faith rather than threatening it.
That brings us back to that warning from Isaiah about calling evil good and good evil. It seems particularly relevant now.
You know, that's exactly right. And maybe that's the key to understanding this whole situation. It's not just about climate change or failed prophecies. It's about our fundamental relationship with truth. When we start calling destruction good and stewardship evil, we've lost our way completely.
So what gives you hope for the future?
Well, every time someone chooses truth over comfortable lies, every time someone decides to care for creation rather than waiting for its destruction, we move closer to healing both our planet and our faith communities. The vineyard might be burning, but more and more people are choosing to tend it, rather than waiting for an escape plan that never comes.